Hey, welcome back everybody to today's video on this Tech Tuesday. We got some shocking stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about shocks, dyno and shocks, how we read the numbers, why they're important, all the information you need to know coming up next. Hi, I'm Billy Dietrich, sprint car mechanic and driver. I've been around racing my whole life and it's pretty much all I know. We created this channel to share the good and the bad and everything in between. Our crew might not be the most experienced or professional, but we get it done and we have a good time doing it. We'll show you what it's really like racing weekly at some of the best tracks in central Pennsylvania. I'm also going to share some sprint car tutorials, mechanics, parts, and whatever else I feel like. So like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Enjoy the ride. Yeah, boy. Alright, well before we get started, I want to break a few things down here quick and go over some of the words and terms we're going to use during this video just to kind of put it out there so everybody understands what I'm talking about. So the first couple of things I'm going to talk about is the word compression and the word rebound. So I got my shock here. Compression is when the shock is going in, okay? So when the car is going down, shock's going up in. So it's just like your passenger car, compression, shock going in. Rebound is the opposite of that. So when the shock's extending, it's coming out. That's rebound. You say your car goes in a pothole, comes back out, rebound. Compression, rebound. Now, so the idea of me talking about numbers, 1 inch, 3 inch, numbers like that, it's kind of the same thing I just showed you. So when I say the 1 inch, or let me back up here, the 0, let's start with the 0 because that's an important number you're going to hear a lot about. The 0 is the initial movement, so that is 0. When that shock starts to move initially, which we're going to talk about, the rebound is the 0, so rebound 0 when the shock just starts to move. And at 3 inches per second, if you can imagine, which I can't physically do this, but the shock's coming out or going in at 3 inches a second, that's the 3 inch number and so on. So we can kind of break it down like that. Now, the couple examples I want to share with everybody as to why you would change your shock, change the shock number, the valving, so on and so forth. Like track conditions, for example. If you had a really rough track and the track had big holes or it was, like just rough in general. So you're going to want to, that's when you would change, just say your right rear shock, for example, if the track's really bumpy, you're going to want to increase the 3 inch number. That way the shock itself is stiffer, less motion. You got a heavy rough track. You don't want the thing bouncing up and down. Increase the number so it's going to move a little slower. Stiffer also means slower action. It's not going to move as fast. Now, the opposite of that would be, obviously, if the track was smooth and slick, you might go the other way. You might want to soften it up because the car is not going as fast. You want to get some action in the chassis. So you might want to, say, soften the compression. And maybe the rebound, too, on the right rear or the definitely a lot of times guys will do that on the front. So the adjustment will vary from corner to corner, from track condition to condition. And, I just wanted to kind of break this down ahead of time so you guys can understand what's going on in the rest of the video. All right, so here's where we're going to start with the whole shock thing. We'll keep it pretty basic here because that's pretty much me. I'm pretty basic all the time. So we'll start with the dyno. We have a Carolina Test Works dyno here. It's sitting right here. I'm self-filming this. So here's our dyno. Pardon the mess. Our workbench here is a little messy. We got our hose machine here. So anyway, when you get a new shock or you get some used shocks, or maybe your shocks aren't dynoed and you take them somewhere and you get them dynoed, you're going to get a dyno sheet. And it's going to have a graph like so. And then we actually print out a second sheet that actually has the numbers by the inch. So you're going to go from 1 inch over here all the way, in this case, to 10 inches. And you're going to look at them numbers. And a lot of times the question I get, and fair enough, is, well, what am I looking at? What is this? What's the point of this? Is this just telling me my shock's good, my shock's bad, so on and so forth? So that's what I'm going to go over today. I'm going to go through the process here quick. I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you each step of the way, what each number, what you should technically be looking for. It could vary a little bit from an individual as far as what numbers are more important to them, but I'm going to, like I said, just give you the basics here on how I do the shocks, and would recommend anybody out there that's just learning how they should read their shocks as well. So got my dyno ready here. My laptop with the program. Like I said, we got a CTW dyno. We've had it for a number of years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Pro Shock. This is a double adjustable shock. So we got an adjustment on this end, and we got an adjustment on the body right there. So I'm going to run this through the test here, and I'll show you it working. And then once we get through the first part of the test, I'll show you the numbers on the screen. All right, so I got the shock in the dyno. It's ready to go here, but first things first, like I said, it's a double adjustable. So I'm going to actually set the adjustment here. If you can hear that. So what you're going to do is you're going to count these clicks. All right, so I'm going to go all the way to the negative, back it all the way out. So that would be the least amount of tie down. And I'm just going to go in about 15 clicks. All right, so there's 15 clicks. I'm going to do the same thing on the body. It's going to require this Allen wrench. Now, every shock is a little different, but I'm going to put the wrench in here, and I'll do the clicks. Okay, so I got everything set up here. I got my machine on the right setting over here, and I'm just going to go down here, start to test. Now this is going to take, it's going to take a little while because the shock's going to have to warm up to 100 degrees. And then once it gets the temperature, then it'll perform the test. So here we go. Yes, ready to safe and move. All right, so like I said, this is going to come up to temperature. There's a temperature sensor right here on the side. It's going to actually read the temperature of the body. And then this particular test goes to, like I said, 100 degrees. And then it's going to, this is beyond my realm of knowledge, but it's going to gather the data. Once it gets to temperature, it's going to slow down. And then the machine's going to actually run the test, gather the data, then put it on the computer screen. At that point in time, I'll break it down for you. All right, so we hit the 100-degree mark, which is up there in which is right up there in the corner. My bad, sorry. And now the machine's gonna slow down, actually run a test. So yeah, once it does that, it'll give me all the data. Okay, now I'm ready to enter the part number or the serial number of the shock, and we'll get some data. We'll break it down. All right, so I'm gonna run this thing a couple more times. I'm gonna run it through some more adjustments. That way I have a range of numbers to break down to show everybody, so I can kind of explain it. So I'm gonna run like 3 or 4 more tests here, 3 different settings. That way you can see the difference in range, and you can kind of get a better feel for what we're looking for when you're looking at your dyno sheet. Okay, so I ran it through 4 different tests. You can see the 4 different color lines here, and this is not really part of what we're going to do, but everybody kind of likes to look at all these graphs. I think they're kind of cool, right? See all the lines and the numbers. Force versus displacement, compression close, rebound open. And the one we go by is rebound close, compression open, which is this one. So I'm going to print this out, and then we'll do a breakdown of each number and what you need to be looking for. Okay, so I got everything printed out. I got it laid out. I kind of labeled it here, and I'm going to break it down with you here. So just let me flip this camera around real quick. Okay, so I got everything printed out. I got it laid out. I kind of labeled it here, and I'm going to break it down with you here. So just let me flip this camera around real quick. Okay, so the first paper I got in front of us here is just the actual graph. You can, as you can see, it isn't real precise. I mean, it is and it isn't. Gets you pretty close, but it doesn't give you the exact number you're looking for, and I'm going to explain that to you right now. So we're going to scroll over here. Now this is printed off in 1-inch increments, and I'm going to start by saying if you have just your regular shock and you have a dyno sheet like this and you're not sure what the numbers mean, well, this is what I'm going to show you. This is how you read the shock sheet. So typically on like a left rear shock, which is what I'm going to talk about here first, you have your rebound and your compression. So we'll start with the compression. So typically you're going to go by the 3-inch number, which is right here. So you go all the way across. That's why I highlighted it. It's 45.85 pounds of compression at 3 inches. All right, so you're going to basically, that's going to be your number for the compression. That's what you're going to look for. Now, on the rebound, you're going to look at a couple of different numbers. You're going to start with the 0 number, which at this setting, this is just a generic. This is, like I said, just for the purpose of the video. Rebound close, which is what RC stands for. At 0, which is the initial movement when the shock just starts to rebound, it's got 15.28 pounds of force it takes to move that shock at 0, the initial movement. So then you're going to look down here at your 3-inch number, and you can see it's quite a bit of difference. 293 pounds at 3 inches. So if you have your dyno sheet and you're looking at your shock number and you're not sure what these numbers mean, that's what you're looking for on the rebound. You don't want a lot of times know what the 3-inch number is and the 0 is. Now that can vary from individual or from shock company to shock company, but if you're just getting started, this is a good baseline, okay? So we'll move over here to the next one. Now, I changed the adjustment on this shock, but just for an example, the rebound has increased. 48, so it went up 33 pounds and 339. So basically 40 couple pounds on that. But the compression hasn't changed, 3-inch number. Okay, now let's just say you had 2 shocks that had the same number on them. Okay, it could be right rears, left rear, it could be any shock. So if you had, say, a 9500 right rear, which I know is an old school number, or a 4.8 left rear, for example, the numbers could vary. These numbers, they could just not be the same, even though the number on the shock's the same. The actual dyno number could be significantly off, and like I said, it could be right rear shocks. I've seen them already go from 48 pounds to 78 pounds, and the number was the same. Just somebody had it dynoed or revalved a different way, and you dyno it, and then you find out the numbers are way off. And that's why it's so important to have these sheets. That way you can keep track of the numbers. So just to show everybody here quick, I know we're going down the line. This shock up to 30 clicks, it changed as much as 300 pounds. So just as an example, I mean, these shocks have a ton of range. And that's why I'm saying it's so important to be able to have these sheets and be able to read them and know what you have, because it literally could change. Even though the numbers on the shock are the same, somebody could have had it custom valved if you bought it secondhand, and they could have it valved to any number whatsoever. So same with the right rear. Like I said, all these numbers are important. So Get your dyno sheets, learn how to read them. That's why it's important. All right, so now let's talk about a non-adjustable shock or a right rear or a front or what have you. So typically, if just say, for example, you had a straight 5, I'm using some old numbers there, a straight 5 right rear shock, okay, 5 both ways. In that case, you're just gonna go by the 3-inch number. Just keep it simple, look at the 3-inch number. It may be anywhere, I've seen, just say 90 pounds. 90 pounds at the 3-inch number is good. Forget about the 0, but the 3-inch number, go by the 3-inch number. Same way on the front, you know, you got 5.3, straight 5, whatever. Look at the 3-inch number and give that, you know, make that the standard of what you go by. Now, that number, it may vary. So, and what I mean by that is a lot of the new shocks, for example, like I have some shocks that I use that are adjustables. There are no numbers on them. There are no, and other brands. So I know there's other brands out there. I'm just, you know, they're Pro Shocks, what I use, what we sell here. Other brands don't even have numbers stamped on the shock. As far as, you know, the old school way would have a 5.6 or a 5.3 or a 4.6, whatever. You can't always go by that. So that's why it's important for you to have your dyno sheet so you can compare notes. So, for example, you have, you know, 2 right rear shocks, and maybe there's 25 pounds of difference in the compression or the rebound. Okay, and maybe you need to, you know, if you have a setup sheet, make note of that. In your one night the track's slick, maybe you put the softer shock on and it feels better, even though the number on the shock may be the same. It may be stamped the same. Anymore, there's so many people rebuilding shocks, and the number a lot of times doesn't necessarily mean anything, really. That's why it's so important to have these dyno sheets so you can know for your own notes what you have, what's working and what ain't working. Okay, so I just want to recap the whole video because I had a few interruptions here during this. And like I said, this is Bill's probably first solo Tuesday tech tip video. So I may have missed some stuff, but I just want to recap it all. So first things first, you get your dyno sheet. You want to use the numbers over the graph itself, in my opinion. The 3-inch number on the rebound closed and compression open is what we use here at the shop. So you're going to base everything off your 3-inch number for the right rear, the right front, and the left front. Okay, so you're going to look at that 3-inch number and use that as your guide as to what shocks you have, what shock you should put on. The variation in that number is going to tell you how much variation you have in your shock. Okay, the left rear is a different case, and a lot of times you're going to go by the 0, which we discussed that up here, and the 3-inch. In some cases, I'm sure you're going to go by, guys looking at the 1-inch, the 3-inch, the 2-inch, all that stuff. But just for this video, to keep it simple, go by the 0 number on rebound closed. 0 when the shock just starts to move, just the initial motion out rebound, that's 0. And then obviously 3-inch and on, so on down the line. So, you know, hopefully I covered it all in this video. I know this might be a little confusing. If it is, by all means, comment below. Get a hold of me here at the shop. We do offer the dyno service here. I'll be more than happy to go over this stuff with you. It can be real confusing if you get into adjustable shocks, which is what we used here today, but just for the purpose of the video, we want to demonstrate the difference in the numbers. So, I also know there's probably people out there thinking that, well, this isn't accurate for the way this brand of shock does their dyno work or this and that. And I totally understand it. But if you don't know anything, you're just looking for a way to get started and understand the numbers, hopefully this video will help you. And, you know, like I said, by all means, get a hold of us here, comment below, call us at RUPW. You can talk to me, talk to Danny. Be glad to help you in any way we can. If you need any Pro Shocks, we got them here. We got new ones. We also have some good used ones that we dynoed for sale on the shelf. And, you Yeah, one other thing. If you're not sure if your shocks are good, you need to get them tested. Bring them here. We'll dyno them. Send them here. We'll dyno them. You'd be surprised how many guys are racing that don't have sheets or have old sheets and find out the shocks are no good. Bags are broke, bent shaft, what have you. So get in touch with us. Appreciate you watching. Comment below. Subscribe. See you next time.